Okay, let's get ready to draw. We're going to take all that you just learned about foreground, middle ground, and background and overlapping to show space and put that to use to create our Charlie Brown tree lot. So the first thing I need for you to do down at the bottom of your paper is write your name. We're all using a pencil. I'm going to write kind of hard so that you can see mine really well, but I like for you guys to draw lightly, so please do that. Just in case you need to erase, you can do that easily. All right, so your name should be at the bottom. We're going to start with our foreground first. That's the biggest trees in the front. Remember, it's not always the biggest, but because it's closest to us, that is usually the biggest. So remember, it's as if you were able to step into the picture. What would you come to first? And those objects are usually the biggest. So down here towards the bottom, I want you to draw a tree or two. You can do, remember, the regular triangle, or you can do the zigzag, however you want to do it. And I'm going to start over in this corner just because it's a nice blank space. And I'm going to do a zigzag, but if you want to do the plain triangle tree, that is fine. Don't forget to give your tree a trunk. Mine will go right to the bottom edge of the paper because I don't have a lot of room. So that's my first tree. Now, I would love it if wherever you did your tree at the bottom, if you would overlap, and that means that the tree that you just did, have a tree going behind it. So it doesn't have to be taller, it can be shorter, it can be plain. I'm just going to make this one the plain triangle. Wherever you draw and it touches the other tree, stop drawing. Okay, we don't want to cut through. So mine stops there, and I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. Come right here and draw my trunk. And the trunk is just like a little square. Now, we're looking a little blank over here, and yes, I realize we don't have any ground right now. Everything looks like it's floating, and that's on purpose. We will add ground later, so don't add any lines to make it look like ground right now. We'll talk about that in a minute. So over here on the side, I am going to add a tree, and this tree is going to look like it is going out of the picture. So it stops, have a little bit right there. So that's kind of a big tree down in the corner. I don't have room for a trunk. If you have room for a trunk, always add it. Now, my foreground, which remember is at the bottom of the picture, that is pretty well filled up. I'm not going to add one right here. I could, but I don't want to because I want my trees to be kind of spaced around, and you'll see in a minute what I mean by that. So I've just got 3 trees. Remember, your tree should be kind of big because this is the foreground, and the foreground is what should be the biggest pieces in your artwork. So when we go up in a minute, your trees are going to get smaller as we work our way up the picture. But before I draw more trees, there are string lights in the Charlie Brown tree lot. And the string lights are held up by these little poles, and we can go back later and look at the picture, but hopefully you noticed that. So I am actually just going to do 2 vertical lines, and I want it to look like it's going behind one of my trees so that you don't see the bottom of the pole. And there's my pole, and it's going above Charlie Brown's head, and I'm just going to close that off with a straight line. And then we'll say that my lights go off the picture over here, but then there's a line that goes across like this, and we will put little lights on them. So put a pole somewhere kind of behind one of your trees. Make that pole taller than Charlie Brown, so but not all the way to the top, but just a little above where he is. That way the line can go above his head, and then we'll have little lights. And all you have to do for the lights is draw 2 little lines with a circle attached. And then skip a space, 2 little lines with a circle attached. And you're just going to kind of keep drawing that. Try to make them equally spaced as you go. And I'm just going to keep drawing, and you keep drawing your lights as well. So 2 little lines with a circle attached. If I wanted to, I could have a little piece of one over here like it's going out of the picture. Okay, when we draw our trees back here, this is a lot going on. We might want to simplify to triangle trees, and you'll see why in a minute. Because remember, every time you touch something, you have to stop drawing and pick up on the other side. So now what we're going to do is draw some trees in our middle ground. So we have our foreground trees that are big, and then we have our pole with our lights. And now we're going to draw some trees in the middle ground. Remember, the middle ground is like the middle of your picture. And our trees are going to get slightly smaller, okay? Because remember, the further things go away from you, the smaller they get usually. So over here, let's say we want a tree like right here in this space. So I'm going to start drawing above the string, and I'm going to stop when I touch, and I'm going to pick up again. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here, and I'm just drawing a triangle, plain old triangle tree. So you can see how that looks, and then I'm going to close it off and give it a trunk. Okay, I like how that looks, so I'm going to do another one over here. Again, stop when I touch something. I'm coming down and I'm touching Charlie Brown here, so I'm going to definitely stop. Kind of goes behind that pole, so now I just need to pick a spot where this needs to finish off at the bottom and add a trunk. And then we're going to keep moving our way upward, and the trees up here are going to be really small. So when I say really small, I don't mean like tiny like the size of your thumbnail, but much smaller than what you've been drawing already. So you can see there's a definite size difference between your foreground, your middle ground, and your background trees. Remember, the background are the farthest ones away. And again, these all still look like floating trees because we don't have a ground in here yet. And if I wanted to, I could throw a little zigzaggy tree in. Put one over here too. Remember, we're overlapping some, so you can put some trees so they're slightly behind other trees. Okay, so you should have some big trees in the foreground, slightly smaller ones in the middle ground. And the middle ground is near Charlie Brown. And then some small ones way up high, and that's your background. I'm going to add another one over here. Okay, so we've got some overlapping, we've got size changes. Now, we need to make a ground so that this does not look like it's floating anymore. So what I need for you to do is up here where your little trees are, I want you to start over here on the edge, and I want you to draw a line that comes and touches and stops and touches and stops. And I want that line to be irregular. Think of how snow looks when it kind of piles up, how it's got where lumps and bumps, like snow drifts. So you drew that line. You can also go back and where the bottoms of your trees are, put little lines going out from the bottoms of your trees, and that will make it look like the trees are firmly like stuck in the ground. You can even put a little line coming out from Charlie Brown. So this helps us make it look like our things are not floating anymore. So now this is all of our ground. There's a little bit of sky right here. I actually am going to go back and add more trees, just little bitty ones, right on top of my ground line here at the top. You can do little zigzag ones if you want to, and these are real little. And I think that's plenty. So now here's our Charlie Brown tree lot. So we've got big trees, medium-sized trees, really small trees. We have a ground so that brings everything, and everything's not floating anymore, brings it down. So then we've got a little bit of sky. If you want this to look like a night sky, you can put a moon if you want to. I'm just going to draw some snowflakes. You can draw snowflakes by drawing little bitty circles, or you can draw snowflakes, this is a fun way too, by drawing a plus with an X. A plus with an X. Okay, and you just keep adding little snowflakes here and there in your picture. Okay, because this is a tree lot, the trees are not really decorated, but if you want to go back and look, some of the trees in the cartoon have designs on them. I'm glad for you to do that. If you want to decorate a tree, feel free to do that. We did not draw a Charlie Brown tree, so if you want to go back and add that, you can. But the main point of this was to learn how to do foreground, middle ground, and background, and how to overlap and notice that things change size as they go back. So that's the end of this video. As soon as you're done drawing, I would love for you to start adding color to this. Please do not use marker, okay? Marker does not look good on this. Unless it's something really tiny like you're using marker for Charlie Brown's hat or his jacket. But I do not want to see your trees completely in marker. The decoration on the trees can be. Remember, marker is good for coloring in tiny spaces. So when I say tiny, I mean like Charlie Brown, the lights, decoration on the tree, but not the tree itself. If you're going to do green trees, you need to get out a green crayon or a green colored pencil and do the green. So your bigger sections of color, like the main color of the tree, the sky, those need to be done with either a crayon or a colored pencil. I can't wait to see your drawings.